VA's Office of Blind Rehabilitation Services estimates there are approximately 130,000 veterans in the United States who are legally blind, and more than 1 million veterans who have low vision that causes a loss of ability to perform necessary daily activities. In this era of instant communication, where we get overwhelmed with data or facts that are useless to unsighted individuals, wouldn't it be great if we could count on news focused on real problems that impact the daily lives of veterans without sight? Introducing Wisdom for Blinded Veterans, an advanced informational portal designed by blind veterans specifically for blind and vision-impaired vets that, like them, are facing challenges every day. Hi, my name is Ben, and I know the frustration. I've struggled in day-to-day tasks for over 20 years since I lost my eyesight. One of my biggest challenges has always been trying to stay up to date with the latest information of my eye disease, local news, and the ever-changing technology. I wanted to be able to have one single site that merged all the data scattered, and that's why we created Wisdom for Blinded Vets. This is a portal that can be accessed via the web, a smartphone app, telephone, email, text messaging, or Amazon's Alexa. It integrates with readers such as JAWS or Apple's VoiceOver and various other tools to give you a seamless experience. This portal will keep us updated on a variety of topics and will share knowledge that can help make our lives easier and more fulfilled. Highlights of the topics covered on the portal include podcasts, events, news, blind rehab and training, information on the BVA and other groups, a list of coordinator and bros list, online groups to interact with fellow vets facing the same challenges, and much more. Give us a try. You will not be disappointed. To learn more about us, visit our website www.w4bv.org. If you're interested in sharing your knowledge, please consider becoming a contributor by logging into our portal and going to the contributor section for more information. Wisdom for Blinded Veterans, transforming blind veterans' lives.
You're listening to Wisdom for You. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And now, back to our show.
Welcome to Insight to Fitness, where we prove that living a fit and healthy lifestyle is not only possible, but also incredibly rewarding for individuals who are blind or visually impaired. Produced by Wisdom for the Blind and VNS Productions, this podcast is your go-to resource for discovering fun and innovative ways to stay active and healthy. Join us as we explore new approaches to fitness and wellness, showing that limitations are just opportunities waiting to be transformed. Let's dive in and have some fun. From the studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, here are your hosts, Benjamin Keeley and Tyler Merren.
Thank you very much, Eric, and do a great job bringing us in. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Insight to Fitness with my co-host, Tyler. Hey, Tyler, how are you doing, man?
Ben, I am doing super well. How are you doing?
I'm doing better. I appreciate
Recovering
that.
Well, getting stronger.
Yes. Getting stronger every day. We'll talk a little bit about that. Most of the audience doesn't know what happened, but we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
Last time we saw each other was on our Wisdom Forum at Sea. That was an awesome time. Great speeches from you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was amazing. First time I've ever been on a cruise ship, and it was a pretty gnarly experience in a very positive way. It was very, very cool. So
positive for most people.
Yeah. There was a few folks who had a few struggles, right? But overall, the event was incredible. Like, it was just incredible. And so many people learning and growing, building relationships. It was neat how many people that were not part of the forum that we connected with, on the ship. Right. And so just some really cool stuff that happened.
No, I thought it was totally awesome. And you were a rock star every morning at 7:00, I heard.
Dragging everybody out of bed, trying to get them fit and get them working. It was good. Nobody died. So it was
a good thing.
Very successful. It was really cool too. We had a nice area. We'd go up on deck and work out kind of in the morning breeze and the sun. And there were a few days it was pretty rainy. There was a few days where that wind, boy, oh boy, thought it was going to take some of us right off the ship. But it was really great. Again, a lot of people who joined in who weren't even part of our group. Got a lot of good feedback. People were like, wow, this is really cool. I didn't know about these stretches, these movements, and I'm going to incorporate these things. And so it was very successful.
That's what I heard. And I heard you had a lot of people, not only from the group. For our friends out there, let me tell you what Tyler and I are talking about. We did the first forum at sea. We went from Miami, Florida into Mexico and Honduras on board the lovely Carnival Celebration, which was one of their brand new ships. And we had over 80 people with us that were blind or caregivers. And we did some classes. We did some fitness stuff. We just had a great time. And for those that missed it, don't worry, because October 19th out of Baltimore, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to Bermuda. But, we started off on the 27th. We had some classes and some opening sessions, and then it just went from there. And everything that I hear, Tyler, was we nailed it.
Yeah, you really did. And it was, again, my first cruise, so I didn't know what to expect. But I would tell anybody who is even hesitating to join this forum and to go on the next cruise, do it if you can, because it was not only was the cruise amazing, the ship was awesome, the crew was great, but the forum was just awesome. The questions and the knowledge shared, and it just went super, super well. So you put on a great conference, Ben. And it went off smashingly.
Well, I appreciate it. And, one of the things that I liked is we had a few veterans that were a little shy in the beginning, and we were able to get them away from that shyness. We worked with Lucas and Jack with the movie. It was great. Help me out here. I just went brain dead.
Yeah, C to C, the race across America.
Yeah, it was great. Surpassing Sight was the name of the movie, and it was put together by Jack Chen, who is one of counsels for Meta, and he and another guy and a whole team went from California all the way to the East Coast in 7 days, and they were all totally blind except for the navigator on the bikes, and that was an awesome presentation and a lot of great questions. From there, you did some great keynote speeches. I actually did some stuff too, believe it or not. But overall, all I hear is great things about it. We did the Olympic Games. We had golf and everything. So it was a great time. And hope if you didn't make it, that we'll see you next year. And if you did make it, we hope to see you next year too.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we're going to talk about today is basically keeping track of rehab. And so we led to a little issue when we opened up the show. And we're going to share a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about how we stay focused. So unfortunately, I didn't listen to my wife, and I actually had an ulcer on my foot that got a little worse and put me down in the hospital for a few days down below. And now I'm on rehab and trying to get it all it's all closed up and healed, but we're in the right direction. And Tyler and I have talked, since I've gotten off the ship and he's gotten back, about how we push ourselves to keep that PT and OT moving forward, so you can, get healed and get that rehab. So that being said, Tyler, what do you think?
I think that you are a 1 in a million guy, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, you can just get in the queue, right? Like, how do you stick to a fitness routine, a rehabilitation program? How do you keep yourself moving? How do you keep yourself motivated? It's like the $1 million question, right? And so, yeah, I'd love to unpack that a little bit with you today, Ben, and talk about some of the ins and outs. It's not a complicated issue, but it's pretty broad, because I think there's a lot of things that can go into this. So the first thing I'd love to kind of stand on, the first piece is a mindset piece, and that can be broken down into a few things. But Ben, what do you think of when you think rehabilitation? What kind of thoughts or emotions come to mind for you?
Well, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and got out, and they put me to a rehab facility. And I was a little not sure what to expect. But when I got there, the staff was professional. And to me, it was like going back to boot camp. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, you're up, you're going into the gyms, and you're doing all kinds of exercises. And when I first started the rehab, my muscles, strength or power, whatever you want to call that, wasn't where it should be. And I'm not 20 years old anymore. I'm 63. But as the team worked together, we built muscles that brought muscles back that made life a little easier. And one of the challenges was my left leg has always been my bad leg, and that's because I had some issues with basically Charcot, and they repaired it by putting steel rods in it, but it was really weak. Well, now that I had the trauma on the right foot, I'm not allowed to use the right foot for another 10 to 15 weeks. So what the rehab did was educate me. And one of the things that I want to point out, and I'll let you address, is when I'm in the rehab, I got that person pushing me, and we were in the gym 6 to 7 hours a day, which is a long time, and my body knew it. But when I got released from the rehab, now I only see the trainer 2 to 3 times a week, and I'm not required, but it's my responsibility to fill in those other days. And that's where you need that motivation.
Yeah, and there's a word there that's really important for us to unpack, and the word you used is motivation. And so I love that you went this direction to start with, because what you have is a situation where you had an injury, right? And you end up in a setting, a rehabilitative setting, where you've got coaches there and you've got a schedule to adhere to, right? That's essentially what it is. You've got somebody making you do what you need to do to progress your body. So we're starting off from a standpoint of, okay, this can be done. I can progress to, there's no question in anybody's mind that you can become healthier and stronger, right? So that's that kind of like mindset number one that I want to pre-emphasize with all of this. You have to have a mindset going in of like, okay, I can be better, I can be stronger, I can be active. And when you start there, the next step you look at is, I have to be motivated, right? I have to feel motivated. No, that's actually kind of a falsity. You don't want to rely on your motivation. Take it from me, Ben. Like I'm a pretty active guy. I've been an athlete for a long time, and there were days where I just didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like the gym's calling. I have a report to turn in. I got to get my workout in. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to the gym today. This is just, I'm not feeling it. I'm dragging. And it's going to happen. Motivation it's an emotion. It's an emotion. And we know our emotions can ebb and flow. And so what we need to do when we're in this situation where we got to stick to a fitness program, we want to stick to a fitness program or a rehabilitative routine, we have to build habits. We have to structure in a way that promotes the positive movement towards our goals. Okay, so and that's way easier said than done, but that's what I want to unpack a little bit with you today, is talking about don't rely on your emotion of I feel good, I want to go to the gym, I feel motivated. What has to happen is you have to look at your structure, look at your day, look at your routine, and build it in a way that promotes this kind of activity. And one more kind of foundational piece, I apologize, I don't mean to like kind of jump back and forth, but one more kind of like core idea. And I'm going to recommend this. I did while I was on the cruise, some other resources I recommended, talking to people. Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear?
No, I haven't. Tell us about that.
Well, fantastic book. Definitely is something to pick up and read. James Clear, without giving too much of the story away, ended up kind of in a situation that you're in, Ben. He got injured, pretty serious injury, very serious injury. And the way that it played out is super fascinating. He gets into it in his book right away. So strong recommendation to read. And he ends up having to put himself through rehab, and he's crossed this bridge, right? He's at this barrier of how do I motivate myself to make this happen? And he starts to unpack these ideas of, well, you can't just go based off your motivation. Here's what he figured out and how you kind of unlock that and move past that to become somebody who's fit and regimented. And there's a few things that I want to share with you out of some of his work and some of my experiences that we're going to unpack here.
Well, it sounds like some things we need to dip into, but first we need to check in with the studio. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about how to make sure that you utilize all your willpower and all your dedication to go through rehab. And remember, rehab is not just for you. It's for the future of your loved ones also. And that's one of the things that I learned. I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also doing this because I don't want to be in a chair. I don't want to be not being able to participate with my family. And that's one of the important things that I keep in my head, that it's everybody that's involved with this.
Definitely.
So we're going to check into the studio. We're going to be right back. Heather, will you stick with us for a few minutes, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Well, guys, you're listening to Insight the Fitness with Taylor and Ben, coming to you from not too sunny Fort Lauderdale today, but we'll be right back. Stick with us.
Wisdom for the Blind is dedicated to doing everything we can for the blind and sight impaired. If you'd like to bless us with a donation to keep the website, the podcast, the webinars, and the radio station operating, we can't express how grateful we'd be. You can go to the website at w4tb.org. That's w4tb.org and hit the donation button. Or you can mail it to Wisdom for the Blind Incorporated. Attention donations. 1005 Marine Mile Boulevard, Suite 255, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33315. Wisdom for the Blind is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Remember, it's tax deductible. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts at Wisdom for the Blind. Are you a big geek? Do you enjoy learning about new technology? Then join us on the fourth Thursday of every month for the Wisdom Geek Club at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also hear a pre-recorded episode on Wisdom Radio every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. For more information, hit up w4tb.org and click on the Geek Club button on the main page. And don't forget to share the wisdom with a friend. You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking with us. This is Ben, and Taylor's with me. Oh my goodness, Tyler's with us.
Can I call you Bob?
Sure, Sue. We're talking about motivation and the reasons to really focus on a rehab. And, there's two different rehabs. There's the rehab that you do 24 hours and you're there on site, and then they're going to release you and you go home. When you're there on site, I got into that groove, and then it's hard to get focused, getting all the trainers and everything scheduled when you get to go home and have to do that from home. So before we took the break, you were talking about a book and an author?
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. And something you said right before we went to break, I think is really important in this kind of first stage. So yeah, the book is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he, as I mentioned before, got injured, and he ends up in a situation where he has to rehabilitate himself. And he starts to unlock some of these things. Why is it that we struggle with motivation? Why, what do we do to alter that? And so, the first thing, and something you mentioned, Ben, kind of ties to this, the reason that you are so apt to stick to your rehab program is that you want to be better for yourself and for your family, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you can't play with your kids and go on trips and things like that because of this injury.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And so one of the things that James Clear talks about in this book is identification. So if you imagine kind of a bullseye target, right? So you've got rings, you've got a circle and some rings inside of them. So the very center of the circle, the bullseye, is identification. The next ring out is kind of your performance. It's action. And then the outermost ring is the outcomes. And so a lot of people approach this from outside in, and he suggests we should flip that around and approach it inside out. A lot of people say, well, I want to go to the gym and get in shape. And that way, when I'm in shape, I can see myself as a person who's in shape, right? So you're going to try to force this change by action. And he says, well, actually, what we should do is we should take a look at the way we identify ourselves. So the way you identify yourself is going to affect your beliefs, it's going to affect your actions, which in turn affects your outcome. If you identify as somebody who is a morning person, you're not going to have a whole lot of trouble getting up to the alarm, getting yourself moving. Your day is kind of bright in the morning. If you are somebody who identifies as not a morning person, your actions, your behaviors will tend to lend that way, right? It's 6 a.m, your alarm clock's going off. I'm not a morning person. I'm a grump, right? And this seems so basic. It seems so well done, but it really is important when it comes to how you're going to perform. If you identify as an athlete, if you identify as somebody who's active, your behaviors are going to start to lean that way. So what he tells you to do is choose the identification that you want. I am an active person. I am somebody who's going to do my rehab and keep myself healthy. And then you prove it to yourself by small wins. Okay. So you identify Ben as somebody who is going to stick with their rehabilitation program. And as I've mentioned to you before, long beyond the point where it's necessary, right? You want to keep going with your physical fitness and your rehab. So you're identifying as that kind of person. So what you do is you prove that to yourself by small wins. Every day, your alarm is set for 2 or 3 times, whatever your protocol is calling for. And when that alarm goes off, 5-10 minutes of whatever exercise you're supposed to be doing, right? You're choosing something very attainable and very doable long term to prove that you've chosen this identity and you are sticking with it.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Please, I'm on a roll, so I don't want to keep. I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, what you said is actually so true. And one of the things that the therapist pointed out to me, and you and I talked a little bit about this the other day, I believe, is that, a lot of people are into how much weight can I, pump, right?
Sure.
And the trainer was not kept on saying to me, because I said, well, raise it. I can do more. And they said to me, Ben, calm down. It's not about how much you can pump. It's how many repetitions. Because when you're trying to rebuild that muscle, they were talking about reps and consistency and form versus weight. Can you talk a little bit about that? That was kind of what you were saying a little earlier, the plan and the goals moving forward, etc.
Consistency is one of the, if not the most impactful factor when it comes to somebody's long-term success, right? When I was working at the gym, if I could just compare 2 people coming in, one person came in, and for 2 hours would just crush their workout, right? They would just be going, lifting weights like crazy, working super hard. Another person came in and they, chose something moderate to challenging, but something that was pretty consistent, something they could stick with. I would typically bet on the latter person to be somebody who was there long term, somebody who was very consistent and would show the best results in the long run. Ben, we're generally a society of quick fixes and pick up my phone and instant gratification, text messages, send messages, get emails, quick, snap of the fingers. And your body just doesn't operate that way. It takes time. It takes consistency. And, an example like that where it's like, okay, don't worry about how much weight you're lifting, but let's work on those repetitions. Let's work on consistency. Yeah, there's some wisdom in that, because if you get into this mentality of, okay, I got to put on more weight, and eventually you're straining yourself to the point where it becomes far less productive and appealing long term. And you have a tendency to burn out. You have a tendency to kind of lose your tread on it. And there's certainly a place for pushing yourself and increasing weight. But there has to be a foundation of consistency, going through the motions and challenging yourself at a more moderate, sustainable level first.
So making sure that the form and everything is done right.
Absolutely.
Slow movements, not just pumping it out quickly.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I learned, I had different things. The left leg was so weak because it was babied for 10 years. I had trouble doing just basic little things, but as I did the repetitions and I just kept on consistent, and I started with like 10, then I would do 20. When I was leaving, I was doing 100 reps of it, but at a lower weight. But I could see the difference because it was consistent, and I wasn't burning that muscle out, hurting it, but I was I don't want to say strengthening it, but was waking it up. Say, hey, time to wake up.
And you were doing both, right? You were waking it up, you were rebuilding some of those connections, and you were strengthening it. And that's a really big deal to recognize, because I think if I could be so bold as to kind of tease out some ideas that you might have tumbling through your head, there's a change in identification here, as I mentioned, right? You maybe for a period of time looked at that left leg and said, it's not the same as the right. I gotta favor it. There's a structural deviation in your left leg due to damage. But that doesn't mean that it's completely dead, right? And so now you've changed your thought process on it, and are changing your behavior because of it.
That's correct. Yes, and now it's becoming where it's becoming the boss. It's not the boss yet. The right leg keeps on trying to do something, and one of the nice things when you were in the rehab inside, the PT trainer would slap me. Don't use the right foot. So
beautiful. I love it.
Ties together, man.
Yep, it does. And so there was a kind of a forced change of identification for you, but then you started to prove it to yourself with those little wins. You started off with 10 repetitions, and then eventually got to 20, and eventually got to 40, and you started proving it to yourself. So this is what we have to do for ourselves at home. We have to start off by saying, okay, I don't currently identify as an active person, but I'm going to change that. I now identify as an active person, somebody who does something every day for my health, for my well-being, and maybe that's a workout, maybe it's a walk around the block, maybe it's some stretches, maybe it's a trip to the sauna. But you prove that to yourself with those little wins. And so, the next step is to say, okay, well, what do those wins look like? And how do we kind of set ourselves up for success in that? And that's another section of the book where James Clear talks about kind of pulling some of these levers of habits, because, habits are not a bad thing. In fact, it's really a great way for us to function as human beings. Up to 60% of everything you do in a day is just run off of habit. You think about your morning routine, right? 99% of us are going to get up and essentially go through identical motions for the first 30 minutes to 60 minutes of our day, right? You get up, you go use the restroom, you go into the kitchen, you start a pot of coffee, whatever your routine might be. You pull open some news apps, or it's always the same, right? And so when you start to leverage that and start to pull on some of those and say, okay, well, right now my habit is making a cup of coffee. I'm not trying to undo that habit, but I'm trying to adjust it and make it into something more healthy for me. Then we start to create some more successful habits that will drive us into a healthier us. I'm putting less cream and sugar in my coffee, or I'm doing some herbal tea instead of coffee, things of that nature.
And that's the important part, is to make sure that you look at the whole picture. One of the things that I did notice when I was in rehab, I started, eating a little better. Instead of having a lot of sweets, I had, different things that were a little better. And they also turned me on to this mixture that you put in with a bottle of water called Juvenile. And
okay.
It's you can get it on Amazon, and it's supposed to enhance the healing of the wounds in the inside of the tissues and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of things, and that one is actually working. It's
lots of options. Yeah. Lots of things
Cool.
that can, I think sometimes people can feel a little overwhelmed with that stuff too. Like there's so many types of exercises. There's so many supplements. There's so many, do you work out in the morning? Do you work out at night? Is it better to work out on an empty stomach or a full stomach? And there are a lot of questions, but I also encourage people like, don't get, paralysis by analysis, is the way I've heard it before. Right. Yes, there's a lot, and everybody is different. Every person, your body is slightly different and will react in slightly different ways. So you have to experiment a little bit. You have to try some things. You have to see what is most functional for you. And then once you find those things, again, identifying as a person who's consistent in their routine and consistent with being active and taking care of themselves, you build those habits over time. And then before you know it, you look back down the road 2-3 years and you're like, wow, look at all of these workouts I've done. I haven't once punished myself with a workout, but I've been consistent, and now my leg is nice and strong and I'm moving really well. And it's just been consistent, steady, tortoise over the hair kind of work.
And that always brings you to the end. So it's time for us to take another quick break there, Tyler, and we're going to be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Tyler and Ben on the Insight to Fitness show out of Fort Lauderdale for Wisdom for the Blind. We'll be right back. Stick with us.
I took a musket ball in Chancellorsville.
Hi, I'm Mike Byer, Executive Director for Operation Song, where we pair Nashville's songwriters with veterans, active duty military, and their families to tell their stories through the process of songwriting. Our services are 100% free, and songwriting or musical talent is not required. For more information, check us out at operationsong.org. If you think this is something you're interested in, email us at contact@operationsong.org.
Till the last Monday in May.
Looking for a fitness app that is accessible for the blind? Well, look no further. Revision Fitness is just what the trainer ordered. This audio and text-based fitness program has a wide selection of fitness options, including cardio, strength, yoga, balance, flexibility, and even progressive relaxation sessions. Download Revision Fitness on the App Store or Google Play, or visit revisionfitnessapp.com and get a free 14-day trial for new users. Find your fit with Revision Fitness. And as always,
Revision Fitness.
let's change the way we look at it.
You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking with us. This is Ben, and I've got Tyler with me, and we've been talking about rehab and how to stick with it and how to set your personal goals. Before we took a break, Tyler was talking about some things, but before we jump into that, one of the things I wanted to point out was when I was in rehab, basically living in the facility, we had the bikes, we had the treadmill, we had this, we had the beds, we had all the tools. And one of the fears that I had was, wow, okay, in 3 days I'm going home and I don't have none of this stuff in my house. I don't even have room for this stuff. And what I did is I worked with the PT trainers and I bought some basic stuff. I bought some weights, little hand weights. I bought an ankle weight for my feet. And I bought a lot of bands and a lot of things to tie and do different workouts. I also took 2 bottles of water, the large bottles, and those are what I do my curls with. So just because you're leaving a facility, a brick and mortar that's set up to be a gym or a training facility or a rehab facility does not mean that you can't get the tools very reasonably in your house to continue this project. So that being said, why don't you go where we left off before we took the break?
Yeah, I appreciate what you say there, Ben, because I've been on both sides of that fitness equation where I'm at the Olympic Training Center working out with the top-notch equipment in the country for athletic performance. And then I've been in the other situations where it's like I've got a chin-up bar in my house and an open floor. This is all I've got right now. So, and sometimes not even the chin-up bars. There are ways to do it. The fitness program that I've put together gives you lots and lots of options with very minimal equipment required. So something you can check out. But I wanted to touch on just kind of one more thing in this realm that we're talking about. This book that James Clear put together. We've kind of talked about changing your identification, the way you kind of see yourself as far as fitness goes and activity or any other habits, right? And how that will affect your behavior ultimately. And so he breaks it down a little bit further, and I'm not going to give away all the details. You all can check out his book and his work. But I think it's just brilliant how he talks about, again, habits are totally necessary in our day. We want habits. They help our brain to kind of be freed up for new advanced ideas and other things like that. So what we want to do in order to put ourselves in a position to be successful at whatever we're choosing, and we're talking about fitness right now, then there are some levers we can pull. So for example, he talks about habits that you want to kind of push to the background, things that you don't want to do as much. There are some ways to set that up. You put them further out of reach. Good example I used with a lot of my clients is, when you're changing your nutrition, you want to eat better. I would tell them, like, I don't mind if you eat some chips or if you eat some ice cream or any of those things, like, have some pizza, but I require that you don't buy them at the store. You can't have them in your house. If you want them, you have to go get them. You have to go drive somewhere to get some ice cream or purchase a bag of chips. And even that little step of like, okay, it's not convenient. I can't just go to the cupboard and grab it, makes a big difference, right? Whereas as you also turn that around and say, okay, I want to exercise more. So right before I leave for work, right on the edge of the couch, as soon as I walk in, I've got my fitness clothes and my shoes sitting right there, folded up, ready for me. As soon as I walk in the door, I can change into those clothes, as opposed to just dropping down on the couch and passing out, right? These kind of little steps, these little triggers can make all the difference in how the rest of the journey of your day will play out.
And that's so true for everything. My daughter's Abby, and she's 12 years old, and her famous line is, "I'll do it in a little bit. I'll do it in a little bit." And guess what? It never gets done.
Yep. And there's that sense of procrastination, there again, ways to kind of work around that. One of the things that I would do, Bennett, you live in beautiful Florida, which I was a resident there for a number of years as well. So I know how lovely it can be. I am living in Michigan with my family. And although I love Michigan very, very much, the winters are pretty brutal here. And yet I still want to work out, right? So all my workout equipment is out in the garage. It is not insulated. Though I am out of the elements, it is not insulated. One of the things that I would do, I'd, get up in the morning, get ready for my day. And I have a space heater out in the garage to at least cut the edge back a little bit. And it's tied to our smart devices, right? So I would activate the Echo and I'd say, turn on garage heater. And it's very easy to say that, right? Much easier than going out into the cold. But I promise you that probably 40% of my winter workouts are simply because I've turned that space heater on. And I say to myself, I'm spending money right now.
I'm not going to get out there and go work out. Exactly.
Because it's so much easier to just say, Echo, turn on the garage heater. And once it's running, it's like, I got to go. I'm spending money out there right now. I got to get in my workout clothes and go do it. And so, we do those things to set ourselves up for success. I've talked a lot with my clients about have a workout drawer, have all your stuff ready to go, clean and laundered, have your shoes ready. Keep them in your car, in your trunk, have a backpack ready to rock. You're setting yourself up for success by doing these things. If you say, I'm going to be an active, fit person, but you never rearrange some of that stuff and make it easier to access, you're really going to be fighting an uphill battle.
Well, you got to set your destiny. And that's one of the things that I learned. And, I have, because of the wheelchair, and I live in a 2-story, I moved my office upstairs. My weights are upstairs. My bands are upstairs. So everything's here. So there's no excuse. And I keep on telling myself, I'm not going to be strapped to this chair. I'm not going to be strapped to this chair. And I just want to motivate myself. And it's through the exercises, through what I eat, what I put in my body. And my whole thought process has changed. And it's all part of the dedication to get this done. I made the mistake. I had the accident. We're recovering from the accident. And it's going to be a long journey, but I'm going to complete it. And October 19th, when we see each other again, I'm not going to be in a wheelchair, my friend.
Excellent. I'll hold you to it. And that's a beautiful thing to use the motivation that you have. Because again, it will have a tendency to ebb and flow a little bit. There will be some days you're like, man, I don't want to be in this wheelchair, but boy, I don't want to get up and do that workout. And that will happen. It's 100% normal, expected, will happen. But you use that motivation that you have now to establish this change in identity, to establish these new routines, these new habits. You prove that you are on the right track with those little wins, which develops stronger habits, which builds in that consistency, which keeps snowballing into the Ben of a year from now, who is, much more fit because he was super consistent with all of his training and exercising.
And I can't tell you why it happened, because we don't draw our destiny. Someone, it happened and now I'm dealing with it. But one of the things I'm remembering is that I'm dealing with it, and so is my wife, my daughter, and I can't let them down. I also need to take care of myself and them at the same time. And that's what you have to put in your brain.
Yep, absolutely. One way that I like to phrase it, it makes sense to me. I'm not a huge card player, but I like to tell people it's not the cards you dealt, it's how you play your hand that matters. Exactly. And you really, all of us have some of those challenges, whether they're accidents or shrapnel in the leg, or just being visually impaired, not having a lot of money for equipment, and all of those things. Yes, those are real. They are real barriers, but we can't allow those to make the decisions for us, right? There are ways for you to be successful, and you're finding ways, Ben. And again, consistency is key. You're going to make it happen.
And I agree, and I appreciate what you're saying. And I also want to thank a lot of my friends out there. You, Doug, David, the whole team has been very supportive. The Wisdom staff has jumped in. Even you were part of that during the cruise. They jumped in and took over. You did some more stuff than what's planned. Everybody else did, and it just shows teamwork. And this is part of teamwork. Your team is helping you get through. You just have to, take it by the horns there and rock and roll. So we want to move on to another subject, but I'd like you to say the name of the book again. I believe that book is on Bard. But if you can say that again and give me any closing statements about rehab and dedication.
It is on Bard. Again, big fan. There's several other books that I would recommend, but just in the topic that we're talking about today, it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. So atomic being kind of an interesting word in this, it's reference to kind of those small fine-grained pieces. But ultimately an atomic bomb is a big, massive energetic explosion. And I think it kind of references both, when you change those habits at the small level, it has a massive impact on the broader scope of your life. So Atomic Habits by James Clear, very, very good resource for you to check out. And one that I like to recommend to people because you have the power to make change in your life. And this is one of those books that will give you tools, practical tools. It's not a dry read. It's pretty fun. So strongly recommend.
Great. Any closing comments on basically what we talked about before we move to the next subject?
I'm excited to see how active you are come October. That's my big thing. I love it. I as a personal trainer, I loved seeing the light bulb come on, right? You've got this kind of like life-changing experience, and I'm excited to see what that brings. So keep us all updated on your journey so that we can all be motivated by what you got going on, Ben.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers. And I just want, before we move to the next segment, it happened. I made some mistakes, but one of the things I did make a mistake on, and I want to make sure everybody understands, you got to be honest with your spouse. You got to communicate, and your family, because they're part of the situation now. And you got to be straight up. And I made a decision when I was going through this I didn't want to tell her over the telephone what was going on. I wanted to wait until I saw her in person. But you know what? That was the wrong decision because she had the right to know right away. So when you think about those things, just think about the other person, how they would feel. And then also remember, it's not only you, but it's the family too. And I'm making great progress. Everything's stable and moving forward. I have a great group of supporters, trainers, everybody, and I just praise God for all of them. So just take some of those factors when you're going through a challenge and you're having to go through rehab. And we're all here. We're all a support group together. Just remember that. So thank you for the first part. And now we're going to jump into a whole nother subject. And it's Christmas time, it's the holidays, and it's almost time for the New Year's resolution. And a lot of the New Year's resolutions is, I'm going to the gym.
Bum, bum, bum.
That doesn't work real well unless you have a plan. So tell us some ideas there, my friend.
Well, I am well experienced with this particular phenomenon of the New Year's rush. Worked as a personal trainer, a master trainer for 24-hour fitness. So I was in the training industry for a number of years, and we would see this a lot post New Year's. A lot of influx, and then it would kind of fall off. And so what is that all about? I think that the main idea of wanting to change, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's like, okay, I've set a date, I've made a mark, I am not procrastinating any longer. The new year is my time to change. So there's nothing wrong with setting that starting line. I think what people run into, and this is again something, Ben, you and I've kind of thrown back and forth today, is they go in with this idea that it's a new me and I'm going to make these broad sweeping changes. And the best thing you can do when you set up a new year and a new you is to start that inward to out journey, changing the way you're viewing it, the way you're viewing yourself, and then setting up a routine for success. You walk in the gym and say, I'm going to be working out 7 days a week for 2 hours every day. You're not really setting yourself up for success. Okay. So start with those little wins, build the habits, build up steam over time. Remember that in the end, it is the tortoise that wins the race, not the hare. Right. So, my challenge to anybody who is looking at that New Year's resolution is set yourself a realistic goal and prove your success, your value through those kind of smaller wins and build on those. And then you'll see the momentum really gain over time, as opposed to starting off hot out of the gates and falling short in the end.
Sounds like a winner. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to check in with the studio, and then Tyler and I are going to be right back to close up the show. This is Tyler and Ben with Share the Wisdom, show of Insight to Fitness, the Wisdom for the Blind Studios. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Ben, and to our listeners, thank you for dropping in today to listen to Insight to Fitness with our hosts, Benjamin Keeley and Tyler Merren. In our first story, NFL legend, Bill Belichick has agreed to a contract with the University of North Carolina football. After a year and a half of not coaching in the NFL, Belichick is taking his talents to college football. North Carolina and Bill Belichick have agreed to a 5-year, $10 million contract. Only the first 3 years of Belichick's contract is guaranteed in case he leaves or is fired. Belichick looks to bring North Carolina back to the top of college football with his NFL experience and expertise. In our next order of business, obesity rates in the United States have begun to show a decline and trending in the right direction for the first time in a decade, likely due to the popularity of weight loss drugs like Ozempic. A new study published by JAMA Health Forum found that obesity numbers started to drop slightly from 46% in 2022 to 45.6% in 2023. The study looked at the body mass index of 16.7 million adults in the United States from 2013 to 2023. The average BMI rose every year, capping off at 30.24 in 2022, then suddenly dropped to 30.21 in 2023. A BMI over 30 is considered to be obese. This has been Ellie from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios. Thank you for tuning in. Now back to you, Ben and Tyler.
Ice cream. All the ice cream in my house, in the world, and most of my stuffed animals.
My video games and, my phone.
What would you give for your freedom? Would you give your eyesight? Would you give ever seeing the sunset again? Would you give the ability to see your children's future? Thousands of brave men and women who served in the United States Armed Forces have given their eyesight in defense of our freedom. And the Blinded Veterans Association wants to give them their freedom back, but it needs your help. Go to BVA.org to find out about how BVA's free programs and services, advocacy, education, peer support, scholarships, and more help America's heroes to not just deal with the emotional and physical issues of sudden sight loss or impairment, but actually work to get them back to the independent lives they deserve to live. Go to BVA.org to find out how you can make a difference. They fought for your independence, and by going to BVA.org, you can find out how to help these veterans regain theirs. Go to bva.org today.
Veterans deserve as much help as they can get. They put their lives on the line for their country, and yet there's still an ongoing mental health crisis among military veterans that needs to be addressed. Well, if you're a veteran who wants the support of fellow veterans and to support fellow veterans, join Wisdom for the Blind's Cup of Joe virtual coffee and chat. It's low-key, fun, and gives veterans an outlet to talk with others who fully understand what they're going through. Get connected at Wisdom for the Blind's website, w4tb.org/cupofjoe.
I was a wide-eyed kid with time to spare for listening. He was a soldier in a war with a heart that kept on giving. I used to take him a cheer wine and a slice of mama's pie, sit down beside his rocking chair and he'd tell me about life. His second tour overseas got the better of his eyes. What it took from his vision, he more than gained inside. Probably asking things you shouldn't, but he never seemed to care. There was a world of wisdom painted in the memories he'd shared. Turning out the lights doesn't have to leave you in the dark. Sometimes you see with your ears and you hear with your heart. You wanna find the calm waters, you gotta navigate the seas. Love ain't just a word you say, and freedom don't come free. Just a few things that a blind man helped me see. In all the time that I knew him, I never knew him to complain. He'd rather carry on about trucks, ships, trains, and jet airplanes. We laughed until we cried and talked until we prayed. When the storms of life roll in, I think back to those days. Turn out the lights doesn't have to leave you in the dark. Sometimes you see with your ears and you hear with your heart. You wanna find the calm waters, you gotta navigate the seas. Love ain't just a word you say, and freedom don't come free. Just a few things that a blind man helped me see. Oh, he helped me see. Turn out the lights doesn't have to leave you in the dark. Sometimes you see with your ears and you hear with your heart. You wanna find the calm waters, you gotta navigate the seas. Love ain't just a word you say, and freedom don't come free. Just a few things that a blind man helped me see. Help me see.
You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
Allie, thank you very much. Great sharing the news with you. And Everybody, welcome back. This is Tyler and Ben with Insight to Fitness from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Well, some of us are here. The others are in the middle of the snow somewhere, but
you had to bring that up again.
So it was a great show, Tyler. Thank you very much for your insight and your friendship. Again, congratulations on your new member to the family. And anything in closing that you want to talk about?
I do. I appreciate that. It's awesome being a grandparent. And I want to share a quick story. This is not a personal story of mine. This is something I had heard from another trainer, maybe a story handed down, but it is a guy who kind of, as we've been talking about through the show, wanted to make a change, kind of had that New Year's resolution, was ready to make an improvement in his life. So the New Year's comes around and he wants to get more fit. So the first thing he did was on his way home from work, he would stop at the fitness center and he would walk in the front door and he would go to the counter and he would check in. And then he'd walk back out, get in his car and drive home. And he did that for about 2 weeks until, just almost automatically he'd get to the light and he'd take a right turn instead of a left, hit the gym. And then he said, okay, I'm going to start. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to do one exercise. He'd walk in the gym. He'd check in at the counter. He'd go into the weight room and pick one machine. He'd do a few repetitions on it. He'd go out, get back in his car and drive home. And this continued for several weeks on end until eventually he was just so consistent with his workouts. He became a gym rat. I know that's not a real positive term, but he became very consistent. He built that habit of exercise and it really strongly impacted his longevity, his health. And so that is, I think, the moral of the story today. And the thing that I'd want to challenge all of you with is that, we want to go a mile a minute and I understand that. But it's every day you get up and you do a little bit better. You choose to do something for yourself that day. You stick with the routine that you've set. You make it easy on yourself. You bring things close to you that you want to be part of your routine. You push away things that you don't. And you'll start to see some progress over the long term, but be patient with yourself and be as consistent as you can, and you'll find success.
Beautiful words, and so true. Anything else you want to add?
I am good. If you are interested in some extra resources for helping you along your fitness journey, I have put together a couple of resources. Ben, is it okay if I share those?
Oh, please do. Yes.
Absolutely. Great. So I am owner and creator of Revision Fitness, the audio fitness app, available on iOS, Google Play, and the web at revisionfitnessapp.com. But you can just search for Revision Fitness, audio library of all kinds of instructions on how to do different body weight exercises, band exercises, yoga, balance work, some audio fitness workouts, some fitness plans, lots and lots of cool stuff on there. Some new resources that are going to be coming out very shortly. So if you need a little extra help in your fitness journey, some extra tools like the book we mentioned today, it is always good to have plenty of tools in the toolbox. Feel free to check out that resource. And if you click the contact us button, that sends an email directly to me. So if anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out.
And thank you very much for sharing that with us. Well, this is our last episode for 2024. When we come back, it will be 2025. That doesn't mean I'm older. It's just another day. But
wiser.
Wiser. That's why I work for Wisdom. What are you talking about?
That's right.
If you didn't have an opportunity to join us on our forum in October, please consider the next one. And if you like the shows and everything that you hear, please share that with a friend. And we would appreciate it. And if you'd like to donate, you can always donate at wisdomfortheblind.org. That's wisdom, wisdom4tb.org. Once again, in closing, remember our families, our caregivers. They go through the same things that we're going through in a different light, but they're still part of what's going on. Share with them, remember them, and have a great holiday, good Christmas, good Hanukkah, and all the other holidays that are shared in December. From my heart, we wish you a good holiday, and I hope to see you back. Please share with a friend all our shows. Tyler, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Bree, our producer in the background, we can hear her, you can't. A Merry Christmas to you and your family. A happy holiday.
Have a Merry Christmas, Ben.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next year. Good day. This is Ben and Tyler for Insight to Fitness from the Universal Studios. From the studios of Wisdom for the Blind in Fort Lauderdale. Thank you very much and have a great seasonal holiday.
Wisdom for the Blind is dedicated to doing everything we can for the blind and sight impaired. If you'd like to bless us with a donation to keep the website, the podcast, the webinars, and the radio station operating, we can't express how grateful we'd be. You can go to the website at w4tb.org. That's4tb.org and hit the donation button. Or you can mail it to Wisdom for the Blind Incorporated. Attention donations. 1005 Marine Mile Boulevard, Suite 255, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33315. Wisdom for the Blind is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Remember, it's tax deductible. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts at Wisdom for the Blind.
You're listening to Wisdom for You, spreading joy, love, and wisdom this holiday season. Merry Christmas, and thank you for letting us be a part of your celebrations.
You're listening to W4TB Radio from the Wisdom for the Blind Studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we share some wisdom to help you navigate the seas to stay in calm waters. Please visit us on the web at w4tb.org or drop us an email at feedback@w4tb.org. You can also download the W4TB radio app at the Apple Store or Google Play. Please share the knowledge and tell a friend. Now, back to the show.
You've been listening to Insight to Fitness, produced by Wisdom for the Blind and VNS Productions, a division of VNS International. Being blind or unsighted doesn't mean you can't live an active, healthy lifestyle. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, visit the website at w4tb.org. Don't forget to share the wisdom and tell a friend.